Hey, Demo, my man. How you doing, bro?
I'm very well. I can't complain. God has been good. Super grateful. It's a bit
Us
in work, but God is signed up for it.
in New York. I wonder how you guys do it, man. Like, I'm not built for that type of code.
Well, what we ordered is better than what we got is better than what we ordered. So I think that's just the simple way of putting it. I mean, it's an opportunity to be in a global institution. It's like a melting pot of diverse people from different parts of the world. I mean, typically like most MBA programs. But I think what makes Columbia quite unique is first off location. Being in New York City, that means that, you can basically interface with Wall Street, titles, tech, the titles in VC, startups, in consulting, so most top companies have a significant presence in New York, so that really helps with engaging people. I basically yeah, one train ride away from downtown, midtown Manhattan.
But you guys are not driving a lot.
No, 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 no. Yeah, of course not. I mean,
That's interesting.
yes.
Anyway, before we talk too much, make we come back to the reason why we're talking. So you have one of the most amazing stories with your MBA journey. Walk me through that. Your story sticks very, very much in my head, right? At that time, beyond the fact that you had some blockages or some challenges with visa, you progressively moved from this tier of school to that tier of school. Every time you got a visa rejection, I noticed that you got a better school. How did it feel initially getting the visa rejection, and how did you deal with it?
Well, first I'll say thank you so much. It's an honor to be here. And I'll say amazing, amazing things you're doing at Lead 54. I mean, you're always one of the biggest inspirations for us to keep paying you forward.
Thank you.
So thanks. Amazing to be here. All right. So I'll say my story has been quite interesting. Like you've said, obviously when I was experiencing it, it was quite difficult and challenging, but they say hindsight is 2020. Looking back, it seems like a very inspirational, aspire material, right?
Yeah, so
But when you experience it, it's quite difficult. So I think my story started when I got into a couple of schools in Canada. So basically I was just keen on doing my MBA. A mentor of mine told me about, how he thinks the MBA is like a very good transition point. And basically he used to be in consulting back in Nigeria, and every year they kind of send forth a couple of their analysts, to top business schools. Sometimes the firm sponsors them. Sometimes the firm doesn't sponsor. So kind of knew about the MBA transition. So every year, in every fall, July, August, they're always having a central party for one person or the other. So I told them, hey, I had ambitions to do a grad program. At that point in time, being that I have a human anatomy background, so I've always wanted something in innovation, technology, business. I kind of had imposter syndrome. I kind of thought that I wasn't maybe good enough or sound enough or smart enough, for the MBA. So I kind of thought, okay, let me just do a program in maybe innovation and technology or something of that nature. And I was like, oh, I mean, why am I doing that? Any reasons why? And I didn't have a compelling reason why. I just wanted to do a career program that was business inclined, but also technology inclined. And it was like, based on your experience, I mean, things that a good girl, good fit for an MBA program, right? As you can think about it, I mean, connecting with a few folks, that have gone on to do MBAs from the firm he was in, a top consulting firm in Nigeria. I spoke to them and I understood the process better, but something funny happened. So one day I was just searching for MBAs. I just typed MBA in Canada, right? And I saw a certain school called Ivy Business School show up. And I clicked on the website. Like, okay, see what the requirements are. Typically, when you look at this website, you kind of feel very intimidated. I
Abi,
felt like 5 minutes, just leave the website. I say, you know what? They'll say, well, write this exam, write that exam, do that. I think they were very smart and intuitive on their platform. So what they did was say, put in your email address, put in your LinkedIn URL, and we'll contact you if you think you might be a good fit after assessing your profile. I was like,
mm,
okay. I mean,
that's some gatekeeping.
exactly. Right. So, I mean, I was like, okay, that's fine. I put in my email address. I put in my LinkedIn URL. I mean, I just put it. I think 4 days after, I got an email from somebody saying, hi, my name is XYZ from maybe business school. I looked at the profile. I think you might be a good fit. Yeah, kind of people we are potentially looking at. You want to have a chat? I'm like, oh, of course, I want to have a chat. So, I mean, we had a chat over Zoom, I think 2, 3 days after. And coincidentally, she was coming to Nigeria for an info session. in 2 to 3 months. And she was like, okay, she can pay my name down, and she's coming on this day. We can have an in-person meeting and session and all of that. And as they say, that was basically how everything started. Because beyond just scrolling to a website, I kind of said, okay, I think this is my dream. Actually, there might be something onto this. I might be up to something, right? So engaged. She came to Nigeria, engaged her, further encouraged me, got more insights. And they also did something very interesting as well. So they were able to also offer you a conditional admission, right, based on you getting a minimum score in your test score, right? So basically, they were able to review your profile and say, hey, you think might be a good fit. So I kind of apply, say, okay, apply. But I think they've realized that a lot of times people select out because I don't have the right GRE score, I don't have this, I don't have that. So I applied and I got an email saying that, oh, I've been conditionally approved. I was like 3 months after again. I'm like, oh, really? She called me to congratulate me and all of that and say, hey, I've been conditionally approved. The only condition is for me to get X amount in my GRE minimum or GMAT minimum. And that means I have an MBA admission. So at that point in time, it was the GRE, writing the GRE seemed like a very tangible goal because I knew that was the bridge between where I was and where I wanted to be. And also want to mention, I actually met one of my very good friends on this journey as well. On that day, the Kellogg, I won't mention his name, but I met him that day. We had that session with her. I was at Radisson Blue in Lagos, and that was how we connected. So it was actually him that motivated me to actually apply. Because I felt even if I don't have GRE, my essays, my stories, how am I going to refine it? And he was like, oh, he has applied. I'm like, oh, you have? And he guided me through. We haven't it together. I applied as well. And the rest, they say, is history. So that was basically the beginning of the journey. Talking about it as we go on.
How did you switch from Canada to Yankee?
Okay, that was also, so I wrote the exam eventually, and I did quite well. So when I did quite well, I reached out to them, and they were quite impressed, and they even increased my scholarship. I think that was the first aha moment for me, because I'm like, oh, okay, so actually people actually get more scholarships, right? Interesting. Then there was a brunch somewhere in Lagos where I met, Superman that you're here. And in that brunch, it was a very good opportunity to meet folks. Everyone was actually leaving, I think in a week or two, some in 3 weeks, some in the next week, and everyone was just catching up.
Big story, at that time, I was still dealing with visa rejections at the time as well.
Yeah.
I didn't have my visa yet.
Exactly. So everyone was sharing their stories. I think it was somebody going to talk at the time. We're talking about just general bantering around, scores, GRE scores, and all of that. I was like, oh,
Koi?
Yeah. It was some very nice restaurant in Koi. And we're just talking about, what school are you going? Where are you going? I'm like, oh, I'm actually going to XYZ school, IB Business School in Canada, and all of that. We're talking about, okay, what did you score? And I told him my score. I was, quite impressed. And I was like, oh, I think you might also want to explore and have more options. Of course, IB Business School is a great school, just like other business schools. But optionality is very important in terms of, negotiating funding and just basically having a cards on the table and knowing what. So long story cut short, I deferred my program there. Took some time to reflect around different schools I want to go to, and of course, the US seemed, upon deeper reflection, talking to more people, joining communities, like what Lead 54 was before it was named Lead 54.
Yeah.
Just give me more insight, as to, and typically sometimes you go to the school's website and obviously great school, great alumni network, but not as beautiful as seeing people that look like you, that sound like you, that come from where you come from, talking to you about their first-hand experiences, just makes you a bit more confident that, like they say in Nigerian parlance, this person doesn't have two heads, right?
Get to
me. So that was basically in a nutshell. It was more or less like, being part of the community and saying that, okay, I could actually have more options, and also maybe meet other schools that were closely aligned with what I wanted to do. At the time, I was looking to maybe pivot into innovation technology, do something in consulting and all of that, and of course, as we go on, I'll share the school I was privileged to get into and how that application experience was. But so far, so good. I think ultimately it boils down to just being in the right community, and having the right support network and systems.
Beautiful. So my question is, let's dive straight into when you applied for the F1 visa for the first time. Take me through that journey, how you were feeling before the application, how the interview went, how you dealt with the rejection right immediately after and further down the line.
Okay. I think Darius see at some point that, getting the admission and even getting the scholarship is the battle. But I think getting the visa is the war.
It's the war.
And I think that a lot of people, get very excited. I have admission for XYZ school. I have X scholarships, which is great, and some people even get very zealous, maybe resign their jobs or make some life-changing decisions, but Daya was always very quick to say, hey, have all your eggs have all your cards on the table first, and have everything confirmed for make certain drastic moves, right? So how was my experience? I think, to be honest, I was quite confident, being that I was going to a great school, and being that I had some scholarship, you know, and being that I was very clear as to what my goals were. I had the job at the time as well, and so basically filling my DS-160 is like portal you fill before you go to your interview. I feel put all my details there. Of course, I ensured that they were as accurate as possible. Then I remember that, that morning, obviously, you wake up super early, wear your best outfit, your Christmas clothes,
And try to beat the Lagos traffic.
exactly. So I think I got there like 5:30 there about. I left my house like 5 a.m. I got there like 5:30 a.m. Of course, I saw a long queue and I was super shocked. Like, hey, just you guys have houses to sleep in.
Yeah.
And I think it won't rain that day. I can't remember. Anyways, so, of course, the queues, and all of that. Then getting in, I think when I got in, I've heard so many things about people's experiences. I think there's some experiences that even no matter how much I explain to you, you have to experience this firsthand. So getting in seemed, you see a lot of people lining up, you go through the typical check, do your biometrics, do everything. Then moment of judgment or moment of truth comes, where you're lining up and, you're supposed to maybe go to one of the visa officers. And then, of course, you're there. You're there. At the time, ask you certain questions. What school are you going to? Just usual questions, right? And I remember at the end of that, we're having a conversation and the question she asked. But when she asked that question, I kind of saw a facial expression, right? And of course, I stick up my cool. Like, hold on. In a few minutes, the very famous blue paper, interestingly, blue is my favorite color, but around that period of time, actually became my favorite color, right? White became my favorite color.
Stay away from blue.
So she brought up the blue paper, and typically the way the process works is you actually don't get a detailed explanation. You just get that. You really can't appeal or you really can't say anything.
Section 214B.
Exactly. You just have to go back and reflect and say, okay, what do I think presumably might be wrong?
I think just to be honest, I think that's what majorly makes it a very difficult experience for many people, because when the denial comes, you just don't have clarity. The feedback is not clear. They just give you something very vague, like you just don't qualify at this time. Some people try to ask questions further. You're like, what exactly did I do wrong? Can you give me more details? But the visa officer, the average visa officer in Lagos has to interview maybe 120 people per day, bringing that to an average of about 2-3 minutes per person. So they just don't want to waste time and they don't want to waste their overtime on you. So it becomes very fast. It hits you very hard. You pick that paper, and what were you thinking at that point?
So, of course, when I got it, obviously I knew that, okay, this basically means that, I think a couple of things. One is, of course, once you're taking your passport, you're not dropping your passport. That obviously means that you're not getting in that day. And I think what makes it a bit uncomfortable sometimes is that, you're in a very open space. And of course, before you start your interview, you kind of maybe not hear clearly, but obviously people are in front of you doing their interviews. So it is just going on around you. And in some cases as well, you're not even very sure if the officer can actually hear you. There's also a lot of, there's some conversations happening at different pockets in different places.
And there's also a barrier between you and them that you...
Exactly, there's a barrier, and I think that a lot of the times as well, you try to answer the questions as clearly as possible. So, I got the blue paper at first. I obviously was disappointed. I walked out of the place. I mean, took a drive back home. I think the first thing I did was, I went to order a very nice, sumptuous meal.
Which
So,
La Visa and I know game you and I know be God.
of course, once you eat, at least you can now see front.
Yes, go see front.
Right? So I did that. I took that day to just, rest, just relax. Of course, I felt bad, but I kind of knew that I didn't have control over this, right? So the next day, I reached out to a few people, to get their thoughts, and this will happen. They just probe, okay, what questions they ask. I also reached out to my school as well, say, hey, I applied for my visa. What are the things that could be done? Because typically as well, that's also, some advice and tips I got. I had a chat. My school was super supportive. I had a chat with a few folks in the admissions team. Okay, so how did it go? This what happened? Blah 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 blah. And asked, oh, what can be done? Can my funding be revised? Can this be done? Can that be done? They're very supportive. They review all options. Unfortunately, at that point in time, nothing could be done to me revise my funding or, anything tangible really could not be done. And also, I think we didn't mention the hustle one for date. I don't know if something we can share here, but that's also another kettle of fish.
No. If yeah, feel free. We'll go reason out later. Know it in one prepare or come on.
Yeah. So basically, it's about getting it as well. Trying to apply, trying to wait for, trying to stay up at night and things like that.
Okay.
And also it's not like it's just, and of course it's not cheap, by the way. There's financial implications as well. And like they give you a date, right? You have to pay the whatever
Visa.
the visa fee, right? In the exchange rates differences as well. So there's so many things happening at that point in time. So I did some reflections, revised my application again. Even if I didn't get more scholarships, I was able to deeply reflect to figure out how I could highlight the strengths of my story. So that was the first experience. But I don't know if I could deal with the next experience, my second experience, or you have.
Yeah. Let's go straight to it.
Okay, so my second experience. So what I did was, I kind of thought, okay, the first time I wore a three-piece suit and a tie. Maybe I should do business casual. Maybe I looked like I don't know. I did business casual. Went there. Second time was actually quite. Obviously I've been there before, right? So I think I was a bit more confident. I was more relaxed, and I think the second time I was very early as well. I got a very early date, a very early time. So I think I was the fourth or fifth person I was interviewed that day. So I think a bit more quieter. There was less chaos around. So I think that compared to the first one, I think the first one I interviewed at about maybe 10:30, 11 a.m. Second time I interviewed about 7:30 or 7:31 a.m. Right? Still very early. I think I was the first person she was interviewing, or the second person I was interviewing at that time. She was interviewing at that time. And also the good thing that there was, I think the first two people that, engaged my visa officer that interviewed me were approved. Right? I was like, okay, interesting. Wow. Maybe this business card is working, and maybe
In your favor.
the deal is the deal that God has made, right? So the Lord has made. When they engaged her, then, we spoke, it was a good conversation. But I think she asked a question that I started probing more around, how I'm going to finance the MBA program. And I explained to her, what my plans were and all of that. However, she was probing and probing. I explained, but for me, I think she wasn't very convinced about certain things, and sadly enough, I was refused again. I think I left there this time less disappointed than the first time, because I kind of felt like, I have some insights, right? As to, okay, everything else was fine, but maybe she had some issues with, the funding structure or whatever it was, I think that she also asked a lot about New York. There's a perception that New York is very expensive. Yes, it's quite expensive, but I think that, living expenses are always subject to, it's not fixed, right? It's very variable, so I think that assumption sometimes can be taken too far. Just like saying, I live in Lagos, right? Lagos is expensive, right? But there's parts of Lagos that are not as expensive as other parts, so, and everybody is not going to spend the same amount of money every month or every week, right? So I kind of feel like, just sometimes, that perception could be misconstrued, so anyways, I kind of knew that, okay, I think there was something around finances here. That was my takeaway, which was good. Went home. I was quite quite chilled. Okay, it was second time. I think I still had some time. I think this was early July. School was supposed to resume, I think, mid or late August. So I felt, okay, maybe I still have some time to give it one extra shot. And I mean, got home, took that day off, and because now I have my hands on something. This thing is finance related, at least based on the insights I got today. And I knew that, okay, I wasn't going to focus on any other thing anymore. Just focus on how do I ensure that my finance is structured in such a way that, is able to allay some of the fears that I presume that she might have, So that was my second experience. Yeah.
So through it all, I really want to know, when was your darkest moment, right? Through the whole journey, your lowest point, and where did you pull the strength to move on? What was giving you that hope? What was your North Star?
Okay. I think my darkest moment was I kind of felt like my dream was slipping away from my hands. Without my control. I remember, like, from where I was coming from, getting admission from a certain school before, doing quite well on the test scores, writing essays, setting recommendations, and just putting in the work to get the admission, and putting in the work to get the scholarship. So I kind of felt like, okay, I've put in so much, and why is this obstacle, like, stopping me from moving to the next phase? I kind of felt at different points, why is this happening, right? So kind of felt, in a nutshell, like this was slipping away from my hands. I think what really helped me, my North Star, was that I just kept believing, right, that this was going to happen at the right time. I think for me, I always believe in time and chance and times and seasons, and I always trust that, the right thing will come to me at the right time, right? So I think for me, I wasn't very, very particular about when I'll do the MBA, to be honest. I knew that I wanted to do it in a certain time frame. Of course, I wanted to get the visa, no doubt. Of course, I wanted to do it that year. But I always say that, my brother always says the worst never happens. I always hold on to that as well. So yes, I always think, okay, worst case scenario. I think at that point I was beginning to think about, okay, what if for whatever reason, right, I don't get this visa now? Is it the end of the world? The answer is no. Yes, I felt bad. Yes, a lot of my friends were already moving on, and being in a community where we're getting approved, and all of that. Super happy for them. A couple of some of my friends, even in Colombia, were approved as well. We had a small WhatsApp group. Everyone was happy for everyone and all of that. And Colombia, we had to pay deposit for housing upfront, because Colombia has Colombia housing, and they have a very interesting way of, like, allocating houses and all of that. So they had to get some information, I think about 2 to 3 months before we came in, so they can properly allocate for the next session. So what that meant was that, mentally, you have committed resources, I kind of saw the place virtually. A couple of my friends have even started thinking of moving, things like that. So I'll say that my body was here. My mind and my spirit was beginning to say, oh, I'm in New York, right? Started getting messages about, pre-MBA opportunities. So that it was more or less like everything was, you were getting everything you're supposed to get in terms of being an MBA candidate, and prepping your mind for the adventure ahead. And, having that at that point in time, at the second attempt, thinking that, okay, I think the worst case scenario, I won't go. Yeah. So I think, in essence, I just kept believing. I think that what really helped me was I wasn't very fixated on when. I wanted to do the MBA program. I knew that something that was going to help shape my career trajectory. I wanted to be in a place where I could own my leadership skills. I don't have a business background, so I wanted to, like, be in a environment where I could learn fundamental foundations of business. So I always knew that this is something I wanted to do. And I tell a couple of my friends, and
Say that again.
I think business schools have kind of evolved to what I call leadership schools of the future, right? I think that in my 6+ months or 7+ months of being here at Columbia, we had an AI summit 2 days ago, for example. I was privileged to be part of a team that organized the Startup VC and Tech Conference, about a month ago, right? And there's so much engagement with the society. There's so much understanding of where the world's going into, and the things that are being shaped the direction of the world and things like that. On one hand as well, there's a lot of focus on I'm still learning things that are not typically business, right? And which is, I'm happy to see that, because I kind of knew that, that's I want this kind of environment I want to be in. I think ultimately I was just not very fixated on the when. I always joke with my friends that, whether at Columbia, Duke, Berkeley, Stanford alum, Stanford BA 23, 25, 26, 27. Ultimately, you're going to have that brand affiliated with you. Ultimately, you're going to tap into your alumni network as well. And the grand scheme of things, right? 10 plus years, 15 plus years in your career, it don't really matter as much if you graduated in 2024 or 2025, right? And I think that's what get me going.
I would think that if you look at the cup half full, you'll see that by the time you are getting in, your guys that you were supposed to get in with in 23, they most likely are in positions where they are making decisions towards recruiting and whatnot. So you have a lot more resources than the average person who is just getting in. Right. So I think that, again, I keep saying that your journey is very inspiring. My next question will be, take us into how you prepped, how you researched everything you did. Because as I speak to you, some people are in that space that you were a couple years ago. And the truth is, when you're dealing with the F1 visa rejections, especially when your intentions are genuine, when you have prepared hard to get into the schools, you have a great plan, when that rejection comes, it takes something away from you in such a way that you are hardly able to think logically. Anything that anybody says to you will sound good and you just want to move with it. So people are confused. They don't know what to do at this time. How did you prepare? How did you combine all the information that you got from different sources? How did you identify that, okay, this advice is great, but not for me? Just walk us through how you got your information together and got that to prepare you for your interview that got you the visa.
Okay, I think you're right. There's always a high probability of you falling into the trap of being evaluated with information, because typically, naturally, most human beings kind of tend or prefer very more activity to more accomplishment. So once you're active, you're doing something actively about something, you kind of feel like motion and movement are two different things. You can be running and sweating very hard, but you're going nowhere. I've come to realize that it's very easy to fall into that trap because, you're at your lowest, right?
Motion and movements.
You're at your lowest and you're thinking, you know what, let me check 100 YouTube videos, right? So let me go on Reddit, let me Google, let me just check different platforms, hear from different experiences. And maybe I can magically combine all those insights. But I think sometimes less is more, So I think what I just did was, like I said, at second denial, I knew where my problem was or what the challenge was. And the beauty of this thing is everyone's story is different, So I knew that. And I think I was able to now ask myself, okay, you know what? This is where the challenge is. To your question, how did I research? I think first off, I spoke to people that were approved. I also spoke to other people that were also not approved as well, right? To get a balanced perspective, parallels and draw insights. Took different people from different schools too, just to get a sense of, okay, this experience, this was my experience, I don't know that. I also, not because I'm on this platform, I spoke a lot with Dayo, and Dayo was also very helpful. I think it got us to a community, small sub community of people that were refused. And that really helped, And I'll say here, giving him his flowers. Dayo has a heart of sapphire mixed with gold, diamond. And
Thank you.
so grateful for him. I know that there's times where we had, good get-togethers, one in Ebony Life, one in Oriental, and a couple of, and I'm always happy when I see that everyone from that meeting or that hangout around in the US right now doing the MBA.
Beautiful.
There's Odira, there's a couple of other amazing guys as well. That point in time, we kind of trauma bonded, but the beauty about it, all of us are now realizing our dreams. So I think that also was very important because it kind of...
Let me quickly pause there and double click on that. So the idea for that hangout was people are leaving for their MBAs. Some people have not gotten their visa yet. And psychologically, many of them were losing it.
Yeah.
The idea was, let us bring people that are having the same experiences together, so that if you mix people that have gotten their visas and those that have not, there's this little, but when you bring people, all the guys that have not gotten their visas, you bring them together, they're on a level playing field. And the idea was, let us get them to wear their favorite outfit again, right? Let
Exactly.
us let us get the guys to think about, in the midst of all of this emotional trauma, think about getting a haircut. Let the ladies think about getting a dress, because it was black tie dinners that we were hosting, and we're hosting it at very, very premium restaurants. So, it was beautiful to see that you all came together
Mhm.
from that invite, and you guys were able to connect and have like a little support group. And it's beautiful to know that, everybody in that group is now chasing their MBAs.
Exactly.
Beautiful.
It was just, I think that's one of the things that also helped, because we're able to hear insights, hear different stories. I think also laugh about it, have a very good heart, light-hearted laugh about it, So I think it was one of the most helpful moments for me because, you kind of felt like you were not alone, and everyone shared their experiences. I think another thing that helped was, me engaging my school, to say, hey, I think I kept them aware of everything that was happening. Interestingly, I remember a Zoom call I jumped on with an admissions member in my team, from my school, and making it use of the video, I showed him my 2 group papers, right? And I think that kind of sparked something in him, right? Because I mean, it's one thing to show, oh, I was rejected again. Okay, is it the same? But for me to see 2 blue papers and I obviously have those 2 blue papers, right? There's no way I could have manufactured it, right? It kind of spurred him on, I'm like, I mean, this is what is standing between me where I am and my dream of coming to Colombia, And we spoke extensively. He was like, okay, we'll see what he could do, speak to admissions. I mean, the financial aid team. I also had some conversations with them, but unfortunately, I mean, like I said earlier, I mean, I got insights that maybe finance or financial strain was a problem, based on my conversation with the visa officer. I kind of drew them into that, and I kind of made my conversation with them a bit more specific because it was a case of, hey, we had this back and forth, and this seemed like what the common problem is between the first and second time. So now at least I have more insights. But unfortunately, that's what they tried as much. They couldn't really revise my scholarship. So moving on to the third time, I think at this point, I've kind of knew that, what, I think there's a high probability that I would stay for an extra year. I kind of made peace with that. On a lighter note, I've tried three pistols before, I've tried business before, so now I tried trap.
Nice.
Okay, maybe I should give them
Give them sugar daddy vibes.
no vibes, Abuja politician vibes, Abuja politician vibes,
Yeah.
as the case may be. So what I mean, nice cab, everything. I mean, then I walked there. This time I didn't, I mean, I was a bit relaxed, to be honest, because like I said, and I think the fun fact was that I did this interview a Friday. Colombia was supposed to resume on a Monday for orientation, right?
Mm.
So first off, I mean, I thought everything in me to go because part of me felt there wasn't point. Typically, when you're approved, even if I was approved, it takes an average of maybe 3 to 4 working days for it to
Pick
be.
up your visa.
And of course, I mean, to be honest, this was a Friday. Morning. Did I was I ready emotionally and every way possible to actually move to the US before Monday? Because typically you have to move in before your resumption date at the point of entry. So what that meant was that if I got approved, and let's say magically I was able to get my passport back that day, able to pack my things, maybe all through Saturday, catch a flight early on Sunday morning, and try to make it to the US Sunday night, because if Monday morning was even too late, right? I start orientation and or whatnot. I mean, like I said, I didn't, even where I was going to leave, my lease was going to start, I think, sometime late August. So there's just a whole lot going on in my mind. But I'm like, you lose 100% of the shots you don't take, So if I sat down that day and not go to the embassy, I felt, what if? What if I got it? And I mean, that thought will always keep lingering in my mind.
Mm.
I believe that for me, I have a decision making framework. I feel there are always two types of decisions. One is reversible, the second is irreversible. And every time I ask myself that, okay, what kind of decision I'm about to make? I felt this was like a reversible decision, because even if I was told I wasn't no, another no, I've been told two no's anyways. What if I went and I was approved? I've been able to, change the course of what I wanted to do. So I went there. I think a number of factors this time. Obviously, the finance has not changed, but the fact that the resumption day was on a Monday. I think when the guys saw my I-20 and asked, "Oh, when are you using me?" I said, "Next Monday." Just smile, a very, very, very subtle smile, and more or less like, in Layo Asami's voice, are you whining me?
You don't want me.
But of course, I asked his other questions, but I kind of knew that. He was just asking those questions just
to fulfill all righteousness.
just to tick the box. But of course, the words came out from him. I'm sorry, you still don't qualify at the time, and another third blue paper, an unfortunate hat trick, So, I got it. And to be honest, I was just chilled, right? I was just chilled.
At this point, you don't be veteran, man. Like,
Yeah.
they have not gone to stone.
Yeah, I kind of felt like, at least I tried, And of course, I got back that day. The good thing is Nigeria is obviously ahead of the US in time zones, right? So kind of sent a message to the admissions team to say, hey, unfortunately I can't make it this year.
Thunder has struck
That's
the
it.
third time in the same spot.
Exactly. And the funny thing about that time was that we were actually three from Colombia, like from Africa. Two of my classmates, two admitted students from Ghana and from Nigeria. We had a small WhatsApp group with trauma bonding. Interestingly, two of us had an interview that day, right?
The other person is a lady.
Yeah, she's in Ghana. She's from Ghana.
Yeah, the other Nigerian was a lady as well.
It was a guy.
A guy.
It was Ghanaian. There were two Ghanaians and I was the only Nigerian. She didn't have a date for that time. I think his next date was, early September or something. He was still trying to beg them to see what can happen for him then. But obviously, I've told him that, that can happen. So the lady, interestingly, I think I got home. Then I just reached out to her, say, hey, it's been nice knowing you that I didn't get it again. And she reached out to me, say, oh, she actually got approved. I was so excited. We were so excited for her. We did a video call. I was so happy for her. And magically, she actually got a visa out that day as well. Because, like I said, resumption was on Monday. So, I don't know how she did it. I knew that Sunday night was in New York.
Hey, she gave them Dana Jollof.
About how she traveled.
Oh,
I think for her, she first, I don't know what happened, but I think the last time the visa officer was a bit more attentive to what she had to say. And the way these things work sometimes is just favor, right? So, and I was super, super happy for her. So she got a visa and, I think it was going to fly to New York early Sunday morning or late Saturday night. Of course we kept in touch. I see her on campus. The other guy as well, that we didn't book at that time. Interestingly, we still played FIFA together last night. Yeah, so, and we're excited.
Look, this brings me to a point here. I say to people, in this journey, in the immigration journey,
Yeah.
as long as you are genuine in your aspirations,
Yeah.
no matter how many times you have visa challenges, you will overcome. And this in the immigration journey is not just the initial visa. So people have challenges at different levels. Some people will have challenges getting the initial visa to get in. Others will have challenges getting jobs. Others will have challenges getting green cards. So own your own at that point in time and don't feel like you're behind because, look, by the time you get in, you're definitely going to be more focused than everyone else because you know what you've been through and you don't want to have that same experience again. So you are quickly trying to do this while others are partying, That's really, really remarkable. As I wrap this up, I have two more questions for you. So this question is, I want you to speak directly to people that are dealing with rejections right now, right? What do you have to say to them? I know like two people that have been rejected yesterday. What do you have to say? Speak to them directly.
Okay. Be honest, I'll try to be as honest as possible. I'll try not to sound aspire to perspire like, I think that the first thing I'll say is that goal and that dream is super valid, right? You worked so hard to get here and life constant thing about life is challenging, right? And I think it's important to first off look at it as an obstacle to overcome. Initially, of course, you regretted last night, yesterday, 2 weeks ago. I get it, right? Take your time to feel the emotion. It's very important. Understand that you can't bask in that emotion, right? You have to move forward, And I would say again that once you're done basking in that emotion, ask yourself, what next, right? And break it down into two things. Number one is, what are the things within my control? Even is failed my control, the locus of my control, failed my influence. What can I do? Right? Write them down. On the other hand, what are the things that I cannot control? Write them down. Right? The things that you can control, give your 1000% effort to controlling them. What can they be? One is engaging your school. Hey, I've been rejected. I suspect that this might be the issue. Right? I mean, that kind of fits a bit into what you can control, but there are some elements of it you can control, which is engaging them. Right? You're not them. The best you can do is engage. The ball is still in their court. In some instances, if it's funding, for example, the best you can do is say, hey, I have other competing offers, or I'm the next best thing since jollof rice. Whatever you want to tell them, and hope and pray that they're able to move the needle. What is within your control is what I think I can do. Why do I think my application might not have been as strong as I thought it is? Is it ties? Is it my travel history? I mean, what do I suspect will be the problem? What can I do about it? I think another thing also is you also have to realize that, I mean, some of these guys have they already have a certain perceptions, sadly and unfortunately enough, and sometimes you're just a statistic and just a number. It's not about you, like Dio said earlier, these guys engage, I mean, hundreds of people every day. So you're just candidates 100, right? It's not that they don't like you, or it's not personal. It's just that, if he smells like jollof rice, like Nigerian jollof, smoky jollof, I mean, for those that are getting hungry, if he, sounds like, it's definitely jollof, right? So the point I'm trying to make is most times, there's certain patterns that they see. It might not be just be that, someone that they met yesterday said one or two things, or sounded choreographed, or sounded like the Cramsy Alliance, or very, very articulate. Yeah, I've touched what you can't control. I've touched on engaging your school. I think the last thing is actually looking at yourself and asking yourself that, okay, what parts do I think I can improve on? And be honest, if there is, figure out how you can improve on it. If there is no way you can improve, in some cases, you know what you can improve on, but the time frame is very short. You can also, get a sense of what areas need improvement and talk about it. I know that from where we're from, people are very, very conscious about these things. So look for safe spaces that you can talk about these things with. And because sometimes, I still called Daya about something personal some 2 days ago to get his insights, and I mean, I was able to make a decision based on the insights I got. Now it would have been painful if I went ahead to make that decision and I didn't talk to Daya about it, right? Or because I'm trying to maybe feel like, I don't want to tell him or whatever it is. But that insight they gave me really helps, right? So talk about it. Of course, you can't just share with any Tom, Dick, and Harry, but not share in safe spaces, right? Because a lot of times someone might have an answer to whatever challenge you're facing. You might ask someone similar questions, to what they asked you, and the person framed it in a different way. I think the last thing I'll say is, overall, you want to be as articulate and confident as possible. You want to be able to tell a very compelling story, all the way, obviously it's a very short time, so you want to share as much and not undershare. For example, if they ask you, so why are you going to the US? Instead of just saying, I'm going to the US to do my master's degree and pause, you want to give more context and say, hey, I've worked in XYZ bank, I've worked in XYZ startup for 7+ years. I've been able to build products doing this. The products have generated Y amount in $1 million in revenue. I'm at this point where I want to move to the next phase. And that next phase is getting the next promotion, or, getting a leadership role. And that the MBA helps you bridge that gap between where you are and where you want to be. Now the question was, why are you going to, or what business school are you going to, where are you going to school? But you're able to give more context, because typically once there are blanks, you don't want them to help you fill those blanks, right? You want to take your destiny in your own hand and fill those blanks by yourself. So yeah, I think that's
Beautiful.
it's in a nutshell. But don't take it personal. There's nothing wrong with you. You're just valid, and looking forward to having each and every one of you in anywhere else you want, anywhere else do your MBA, in the school you want to be. Yeah, that's it.
Yep, bro. Beautiful. Thank you very much. For context, if you're comfortable sharing, how many times did you get a visa rejection?
Yes, I am 3 times.
3 times. Okay, good. My last question to you is say something to the people who have gotten into great schools and believe that because I got into a T7, T10 school, it's automatic visa.
Okay, before I say, well, in saying something to them, I think they say even in Freetown, there's no free lunch, right?
Yeah.
The truth is, all the times you are most of us are predicaments of the environment society we're from. So when they say in Nigerian, if people have a good perception or bad perception about Nigerians, as long as you're Nigerian, you're going to also get in that. You're going to be classified as that, unfortunately enough. That's the sad reality. But I always say that, there are good people and there are bad people from every part of the world. So I would say that even if you get into a top school, you don't want to be complacent, right? You still want to, do your homework. You still want to assume that they don't know what the name of your school is, right? You still want to be able to give more context. You still want to be able to go above and beyond to prepare, to explain, to share insights, to talk about your story, talk about your journey. And like I said, you have to be very articulate. You have to be very fast. You have to be able to be convincing as well. So I think just don't rest on your laurels, right? This is just the beginning. Again, to whatever school it is, you have written tests, you've written essays, you've submitted recommendations, you've done interviews. You deserve to be here. You've earned that right. But this is just the beginning of the journey.
Beautiful.
So in essence, I'll just say that please still put in the work, engage your school, engage the second years and first years in your school, engage communities, engage alums, just engage as much as possible, get as much insights as possible.
Yes.
Important to also engage other folks that got into your program as well. Yeah, I think typically by the time you admitted students have like some community as well. From beginning, you begin to build those relationships.
Beautiful.
The sky is the starting point. Wishing you all the best.
Thank you very much, Ademola. Look, my last question to you, I know I said that was the last, but the last one, we want to know what's up with you. What's up with you? What's next for you? What's the next big thing? Take us through a journey of your mind. Somebody might be listening out there that, that is very quick to say, hey, look, this guy's story is interesting. Let me get you on to the next thing that you're trying to do. Talk to us. What's up?
Okay, great. So it's been a very fulfilling experience, so far. It's been amazing. I've been able to, live out some of the things I always dreamed about. In January, for example, I was in San Francisco. We had a tech track. I'm part of the tech club here in Colombia. And I was able to visit Google, HQ, E3AI, NVIDIA. I was able to see HQs of companies that I kind of only see on Google or on YouTube or online, right? And I'm able to engage firsthand with folks that work there, get a sense of what drives them, what their mission is, and things like that. And like I said earlier, I've been privileged to be part of, good communities, part of the Africa Business Club, for example, privileged to hold an AVP position there, part of the Alicon, which is our startups, VC and tech conference. And, I've taken amazing classes from professors that I only read about. I'm able to speak to some of them, one-on-one, reading some of their materials. Overall, it's been a very, very enriching experience. And like I say, business school to me has actually been more of a leadership school and basically been helping to shape me. So what am I up to? I think, let me say that, when I first came to business school, first week, first 2 weeks, people were like, oh, what do you want to do? And everyone was going around. Okay, I was doing investment banking, I want to do consulting, I want to do tech, I want to do my own startup, whatever it is. But in lighten, I always say that, my heart wants to do certain things, my head wants to do certain things. But in the short term, I think I'll go in my head, yeah, I think so. In view of that, thanks to God, I'll be working in tech this summer with a big tech company by God's grace. But beyond that, I'm also very, very interested in innovation, technology, and startups. I also started like a digital incubator and advisory for early stage startups, to basically help them on their journey, called Hatch Foundry. So the whole idea for Hatch Foundry is, on one hand, to make it super easy for anyone to launch a startup, whether you are going full time into it or you're still looking to transition into it. On the other hand as well, helping startups that want to move on to the next phase of their journey, if they're trying to connect with partners or investors. Also trying to help investors to get the right kind of startups, that are going to help them, move to the next phase of their growth. But all in all, being that bridge that connects, relevant stakeholders in the startup space, focused on emerging markets, but not limited to emerging markets. So emerging markets, Africa, Middle East, Latin America, Southeast Asia. Also working with amazing partners as well, some of which are my classmates here at Columbia. What else?
Beautiful.
Yeah, I think that's it. Looking forward to the summer. Looking forward to, dream.
And for those that may be looking to contact you based on this accelerator environment that you talked about, how do they reach out to you?
You can check it out.
Healthfoundry.com.
Thank you so much. And also LinkedIn as well. LinkedIn is Ademola T. Adewuyi.
Thank you very much. Your story is amazing. Your story is going to be inspiring more people.
Yeah.
So thank you very much, Ademola. It was wonderful. And any questions for us? Any question? Ask you so many questions and just give you an opportunity to ask one, if any.
I think the question I have is 5 to 10 years from now, where do you see Lead Fit 54?
That's an amazing question. So we've been doing this for 4 years, and we have been putting structure in place for Africans that are coming in for the MBA, right? And we're not just an MBA admissions. No. If you come into our community, you will find resources to land great admissions, right? But over and beyond that is everything tied around the MBA lifestyle, the visa, the internships, the full-time roles. You want to get connected to someone who is a realtor from the African community and things like that. Why do we do what we do right now for free, right? Because what we do here, we ensure that we give people the kind of value that they can't find anything better than it outside here, even if they paid for it. That's our dream and our goal, right? So 10 years from now, we would have a strong African community that is being respected by the MBA programs. We would already have our own ranking from an African perspective so that Africans can see that, look, based on the rankings that Africans put together, these are the top schools that actually give Africans, their money's worth, right? So that can be a guide for Africans that are trying to get in. Secondly, we would have amassed a lot of influence in 5 to 10 years. So imagine how many people we've gotten from not knowing what to think or not knowing how to approach the MBA journey to getting them in, getting them visas, getting them internships, getting them jobs, connecting them to startups and whatnot, right? When they get to those top levels in 5, 10 years, somehow we will still have that connection, because as long as somebody has handheld you into an environment where you're able to actualize your dreams, those bridges never burn.
Exactly.
They never burn. So, I'm excited to see what 5, 10 years from now will be like. Even right now, we're already seeing people fly. Look at yourself. Look at the amazing stories we're hearing about the great things you're doing. So that's what 5, 10 years will look like. We're looking forward to, seeing what we can do with your leadership at the African Business Club as well in your school.
Thanks.
Like, we all get the opportunities to write case books as we get through our MBAs. So writing African-focused cases is helpful for the economy, not only exposing the African businesses, but exactly giving them more insight into our, business strategy, and how culture is a part of everything that we do in Africa, even business-wise. So I hope I answered the question properly.
Yes,
Thank
you
you
did.
very much, Ademola. I'm going to be in touch with you. God bless you, my brother, man. Stay warm in New York.
Thank you. Yes, I will.
All right,
Thank
man.
you
Take
much.
care, bro. Bye.
All right. Take care.